FORA.tv. The world is thinking.
There's a clip you can get on YouTube, which is a trailer for a Nigerian gangster movie, like a real exploitation one called Liverpool versus Chelsea. And there are these two rival gangs running around in Liverpool and Chelsea strips and kind of watching games on TV and fighting it out and so on. It's, it's trashy, but it's funny. But it speaks to, a real condition in African cities all over the continent where what are we watching? We're watching the European Champions League. We're watching the English Premiership. The global audience for the European game now is so massive that the whole quality of the World Cup has changed entirely. So, just to throw out an example of something that I think is worth thinking about for this World Cup, Pelé in Brazil. 1958, Pelé explodes onto the international scene. There's the 17-year-old black kid from Brazil who can do things with a ball that nobody's ever seen before, and everybody's just blown away. And Pelé, the name Pelé becomes a household name to people who know nothing about the game, but it becomes the standard of excellence. And what's kind of remarkable about Pelé is that the world only actually sees him at 4-year intervals between 1958 and 1970, and that's it. He plays his club football in Sao Paulo for Santos, and that's it. And then he retires here. I mean, when he comes to the New York Cosmos, it's retirement. That's not serious anymore. So you contrast that to but Pelé at the same time, and the Brazilians are the icon of the global South in football. Bob Marley talks about himself as being a Brazilian, identifies himself with Brazil when it comes to football, because they are they're the African diaspora in the game and in the global relationship between Africa and the West, if we're going to use those terms. Today, interestingly, there's no single champion of the global South in that way, because the global South, or people who represent it, are much more present. So you'll have figures like Didier Drogba on the cover of Vanity Fair and Time magazine this week, expressing that idea. Here are sort of African football heroes with whom the global South is going to get behind. Interesting thought, though, I think, is that Pelé stayed in Sao Paulo his whole playing career. Today's African football heroes are all migrants. They're all based in Europe. The guys in that Puma ad shot the ad back home, but Emmanuel Eboué lives in London. Who else is in that ad? Samuel Eto'o lives in Milan. No, yeah, Milan. Right, and the third one was John Mensah, Fulham, also lives in London, and. The reality of Côte d'Ivoire is going to take a team to the World Cup that might have one home-based player, one of the reserve keepers. Ghana, the same. One of the reserve keepers is based in Ghana. Everybody else is playing in Europe. It's an interesting sort of nexus as well between the corporate and the national, because like that video, Chelsea versus Liverpool video, people are more. We all watch those players every week. We watch the same group of players week in, week out. And people, you'll see photographs of a Sadrist demonstration in Baghdad and somebody's wearing an Arsenal Thierry Henry shirt. Mm-hmm. And you'll see a picture of the Shabab gunman in Mogadishu and somebody's wearing a Thierry Henry Arsenal shirt. And that same shirt maybe is being sold in a mall in San Diego or in Shanghai. Mm-hmm. So there's there's commerce going on. Somebody's making billions of dollars of selling these replicas. But there's also some sort of representational politics going on. People are identifying with those shirts for reasons which, I guess we can discuss at length, but I'll leave it there for now.
Yeah. I mean, can I just ask you, are you sort of depressed by that, or do you think this is all...
No.
Or do you want to see where it's going?
No, I think it's interesting. I mean, I think it's a terrain. But it's not, this whole idea that it's Africa's World Cup, it's like, well, actually the European Champions League belongs to Africa in some way. Mm-hmm. The English Premiership belongs to Africa in some way, not only in the fact that its players are there, but African people all over the continent are watching those games week in, week out. We're all, well, I'm from South Africa as well, like Sean. We've all sort of identified with the British team somewhere, for decades, and it's somehow part of our identity in some strange fetishistic sort of way. But yeah, I mean, I think it's much more, I don't find it depressing. I think it's much more dynamic and interesting.